What's up, you guys? Welcome to today's video. So I'm going to be reading Ruby Frankie's journal entry of just evil. And oh my God, you guys told me to read these and I did see a couple of clips here and there, but I read the entire thing and I'm going to read that to you guys right now. Not every single one because I will never do a deep dive. And the reason for that is because you can get every single detail verbatim on every other channel that discusses this. I want to bring other things into the conversation. So not a deep dive, casual conversation. And I'm going to be kind of cherry picking the journal entries of Ruby Frankie. And I'm also going to be discussing why Kevin Frankie was not charged with child abuse. Because I've seen a lot of channels kind of just tearing into him, which justifiably so, but I'm going to discuss why I think that he did not get charged with child abuse. I'm also going to discuss the legal aspect to that. But make no mistake, I don't think Kevin Frankie is a good person, but I'm going to be as fair as possible when discussing him. So without further ado, let's kick this thing off. Quick little recap. Ruby and Kevin Frankie were the host of the 8 Passengers YouTube channel that started in 2015. It's a family vlog channel that is just cringy when you look at it. And over time, it got worse and worse with more red flags and more red flags. And then ultimately in 2021, I believe, is when Ruby uploaded the last video on that channel. Their subscribers were calling them out for child abuse, literal child abuse, neglecting them, punishing them by taking away bare necessities, restricting food. And, you know, it just is this weird cult-like teachings of connections, which again is a cult. I don't care what anyone says. It was a cult program that kind of intertwined religion with abuse and just literal torture. And this is something that makes me so angry because they used religion as a weapon. They weaponized it and used it to manipulate and justify their sick abuse to the point where like they believe what they're doing is good, which that's the cult aspect to it. Like they believed that these two youngest of Ruby's, which we're referring to as E and R, they believed that there was like demonic possession in them. The little boy, the 12-year-old boy, they believed more so that he was demonic. And Ruby literally says that she thinks her children are satanic spawn. Okay. The fuck? So yeah, that's a little recap. I did do a previous video on it with Burner. And oh, by the way, the layout of this is going to be, he and I are going to casually discuss a case. Then I'm going to come in with some more videos and some more details. His insight was so important in this case and a lot of the other cases that we're going to look into actually, because he's from Utah. So he understands a lot more what is going on. Because as a New Yorker, I'm like, what do you mean wilderness camp? That's okay. Anyway, back to this. We don't need the same regurgitated details over here that y'all get everywhere else. Okay, so this journal entry of Ruby's, and I believe it's the first one, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong. A lot of things have been redacted by law enforcement and other channels because a lot of content creators, myself included, they don't want to continue to share all of these details, and they, you know, a lot of people plus law enforcement want to take out details because we're talking about kids here, you know, and it's just awful. This is lifelong trauma. Okay, so on 6/30 of 2023, it's how gross is it that Ruby fucking wrote all this down and documented it. 6/30 of 2023, R refuses to do wall sits. He says he is done. Wall sits? R is to stay outside. Sleep outside, only coming in to use the bathroom and shower. I would literally just lock myself in the bathroom or run away. Like, you know, these kids are so fucking strong. I can't believe that they had to go through any of this. 7/14/23, E refuses to work, screams, has hair shaved off. I think previously I had said that I thought Jody shaved E's hair. No, that was Ruby. And I also did not know that they were living together, but they were living together. And they were also looking at property in Arizona to further isolate these children and further abuse these children. The reason why I was so confused on where Ruby was living is because she was arrested like hella far away from Jody's house. So I was like, okay, they're not living together. She must have sent her kids there. But there's just been a lot of videos and a lot of things that I have seen in my research. But I get it now. They're together. doing this together in like a program, cult, wilderness, fucking boot camp, let's abuse my kids training course. Feel good moments. On 7/15 of 23, R runs away. Now keep in mind, this little boy is 12 years old, being made to sleep outside after, just hell. So Ruby finds him at 3:14 a.m., which means he was probably like walking for 2 to 3 hours in the middle of the night by himself, 12 years old. Like, my daughter is about to turn 12. Like, just, it kills me. This is so hard to digest. Ruby finds him at 3:14. And I think that day is when Jody decided that she was going to go to Arizona to find a property to further hurt these kids. R turns 12 tomorrow. I never envisioned him being 12. The next part is redacted. Satanic chorus led one to becoming destructive, even in the most affluential homes. July 10th of 2023. It's R's birthday tomorrow. He doesn't even know what month it is. He's 12. He doesn't know because you're not telling him what month it is. They're both furious that their selfish, sinful lifestyle is being intervened upon. Selfish, sinful lifestyle? He's 12. I told R he imitates a snake. He slithers and sneaks around, waiting for opportunities when no one is watching, and then he scurries. If he wants to imitate the Savior, he needs to be 100% obedient with exactness, no wavering, no hiding. Ooh, if I ever see those bitch. You know what I find just absolutely fucking ridiculous? She's talking about him stealing water. He's sneaking around and trying to find opportunities to eat and drink water, referring to one incident where he stole water from the hose, And just to break up how heavy this is, those were the moments as kids, playing outside all day and drinking from the hose, come back when the lights were on. That was a feel-good moment. That's not anything like this, though. This is fucked up. You know what I think should happen? I think every single thing she did to these kids should be done to her. Every single thing she did to these kids. Like, I don't know, making E sit in a pantry, looking at food, but she can't eat it. Whew, man. I hope that in prison, she sees everyone getting tons of commissary and she doesn't get shit. It's a bad day. R lies. I mean, he's a complete liar. I would have never suspected this entire experience to be such a shock to my system. You know what I think is a shock to the rest of our system? The fact that your kids couldn't eat food. Like, this is a whole new level of abuse because they're using religion to fucking abuse these kids. Like, at one moment, R says that he worships the devil. I would say that too. You know why? Because if you're telling me that this is how God is supposed to treat me, I'm gonna go the other way. You know what I mean? Like, peace out. And that's not like a dig towards any of y'all if y'all are Christian. I grew up in a conservative Christian household. But I grew up with loving parents, that tried their best with me. Anyway, parents that never restricted food or treated me like crap, parents that accepted all things like gay marriage and, just really good, kind people. I know I've taken several digs when it comes to the Mormon faith. I don't mean to. I'm talking specifically about these obviously not Christian Mormon people. These people are cult leaders using religion to abuse, manipulate, etc., right? They're not good people. So I just want to be clear. I know I've taken a couple of digs, probably my entire career when it comes to religion, but I genuinely believe that there are some people out there that use religion as a tool to abuse, manipulate, take advantage of, and hurt people. And I think organized religion kind of sucks, just from a lot of the things that I've seen, like pastors hard-R-ing people, pastors S-ing people. I was in a Christian program in prison where the chaplain was literally hard-R-ing several inmates, and he did it for years and he got away with it and got awards for being that pastor in that prison. These are the sick individuals that I'm talking about that use religion to hurt others. I told R that he needs God. I invited him to fast and pray. R is in and out of possession. He is workable and calm for a bit and then angry and defiant the next. The only consistent thing about R is that he lies. I think other channels have mentioned this too. The wording is so weird. It's very repetitive, which is again like this cult-like energy to repeatedly say words like, oh, I invited Kevin to no longer live with us. I invited R to fast. You are starving him. It sounded better worded that way, but let's just call it what it is. You're starving this child, both of these children. I invited R to fast. I hope in prison she gets air trays. So that's essentially where the cop or the officer, the CO, they bring you a tray that has food on it. But if they're bringing trays to like protective custody, solitary confinement, whatever, they're putting the tray into your cell. There's a tray on top of a tray. The camera doesn't know if there's food on that tray or not. Only the guard knows that. And a lot of times, chomos and people that have had crimes against children, the CO will intentionally feed you air. They will feed you nothing. So there'll be nothing on that tray. And I hope she gets air trays. They also use words like distortion, sitting in truth, living in truth. It's cult-like. And distortion, I did define that in my last video, but distortion, it's basically saying that you can be addicted to anything, even your spouse, and you can be codependent on your spouse, and you can be addicted to sex and food. And yeah, I believe you should be sexually attracted to your spouse. You should be, you should be head over heels and in love with your spouse because they're your spouse, ugh. E is better behaved with Jody. She likes to think that she can still manipulate me. I gave her a pixie haircut. All hair is gone. No more distracting with hair. This sounds like E was disassociating, and like I've gone through that too, where I'm just like picking at my hair and like anything to distract me from what is happening in the moment. It's like a compulsive thing where if I am super elevated, if I am super stressed, I do things. I pick at my hair, I pick at my lip, I kind of pick at my fingers. So this does not sound like a bad child. This does not sound like a disobedient child. This sounds like a child that is going through extreme mental and physical torment and abuse, that she's doing anything to distract herself, anything. It could be biting your lip. It could be just picking, like anything to take your mind off of what is happening to you in the present. I read an article that said that hair holds trauma. Jody unknowingly here, shaving her head, like maybe that was some kind of release, hopefully, in that moment for E, this poor baby. 7-Eleven, a big day for evil E. Manipulates me. She won't scream when Jody is around, but with me, she wails all night. E screamed and cried and would hit her head on the floor. Today, Jody confronted her. E admits to putting on a show for her mother. E says she wants to be pitiful. R was told to stand in the sun with his sun hat. He is defiant. No. I tell him a couple more times. R, or should I say his demon, stays in the shade. I push R into the sun. R comes back. I come back with a cactus poker. What the fuck is a cactus poker? Like just a cactus that she's like hitting this kid with? These are so hard to read. When I poke his back to get in the sun, R doesn't even flinch. I poke him on the neck. He is in a trance and doesn't appear to feel anything. Jody taps him on the cheeks to wake him up. Again, he is probably disassociating. He's probably dehydrated. He's probably in a trance because he's malnutrition, because he's exhausted, because you have put this child through extreme abuse. He doesn't feel anything because he's not present mentally. He's checked out. He's probably confused. He's probably extremely exhausted. Anytime you ever hear someone on a public platform say they're restricting food from their child, fuck that. Like, comment and let them know, like, you're a piece of shit for that. I hate all of this. July 16th, 2023. Last night, I tied myself to R. Full night of sleep, 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. No interruptions. R showers while I watch. He's 12. Bruh. Give the kid some fucking space, but she's afraid that he's going to escape again. And it's very clear from these journal entries that she knew that if R escaped or E escaped and told someone what was going on, that they would be arrested. She even references prison in one of these entries where she says, "The devil wants me in prison." Okay, we all want you in prison. She goes on to say that after R escapes, that she feeds him rice and lentils. I don't even know how the fuck to cook a lentil. I don't even know what a lentil is. It's like a grain, or the fuck is a lentil? Anyway, not the point. A lot of this stuff is redacted because, again, we're talking about small children. Even in watching the body cam footage, a lot of it is muted when they're discussing some of the wounds and things that they found on both of these children. Severely emaciated and just very, very sick, as you guys know. So it is a practice, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Mormon faith to keep records of some things. I think Jody is using, again, religion to, obviously this is all under the guise of we're doing the right thing for the Lord and Savior. Jody. I mean, Jesus. So I think that she's again like twisting that and making Ruby, write down all of this stuff and document it, which is just so twisted. Like, not only are you abusing your child, but you're putting pen to paper and describing how you're abusing your child. Like, okay. I think that from a law enforcement standpoint, it's incredible that she kept records of it because we have a detailed account of what these kids went through for months. So I kind of want to transition from that into Kevin Frankie, because a lot of people are like, why is he not locked up? He must have known what was going on. He's not asking in body cam footage how his children are for 14 minutes. I have a lot to say when it comes to that. First and foremost, from a legal standpoint, Kevin Frankie was not present at the time of this very excruciating physical abuse over the course of what, 2 months, 2.5, 3 months. He wasn't there. So his involvement in the charges they were able to pin on these two people, it was 6 counts of aggravated child abuse. 4 counts are what they were convicted of. So the reason why Kevin Frankie was not charged is because he wasn't there at the time. Now, law enforcement, they're not going to roll it back to 2015 and be like, okay, you had your kid sleeping on a beanbag chair, let's charge you with abuse for that. From a legal standpoint, I understand it. Now, having looked more into 8 Passengers and Kevin, do I think that he was involved in some abuse tactics when he was currently living with Ruby? Yeah, I do. Do I think that he knew a lot of what was going on present day? Maybe not. But what I will say here is I do believe that Kevin Frankie was heavily manipulated by Jody and then heavily manipulated by Ruby, who was a cult follower of Jody's. And I think over time that Kevin kind of like snaps out of this cult-like believing and following, but he was in Jody's cult, which was Connections. And then he was like kicked out of that or excommunicated from that and invited not to live with them anymore. Like, okay, very, very weird. But that's kind of standard when it comes to cults. They do weird shit and they believe weird shit. And they, it's like people are able to, my ankle is like really itchy. Cult leaders are able to make people believe the craziest shit. And, it starts very slowly. It's the frog in the boiling pot scenario. And I know I've said this a million times, but if you put a frog in hot ass water, it's jumping out. It's like, hell no, you're not eating frog legs tonight, bitch. No. You put that frog in cold water, it's like, ooh, okay. Going for a little dip, going for a little swim. This is pretty cool. Then you slowly turn up the heat. What I find interesting is that the several months that this extreme abuse was going on between the youngest ones, E and R, Jody and Ruby, they didn't start with cold water. They went fucking, from 0 to 100. And R, it's very clear that R knew exactly what was going on. He knew that this was wrong. He knew it wasn't okay. Tried to escape many times. He is the frog trying to jump out. It is the saddest thing that I have ever seen. Child abuse cases are the worst kinds of cases to ever research. They're very heavy. I just don't understand how somebody could hurt an innocent, defenseless child. The amount of therapy that these kids are going to have to go through, this is lifelong trauma. She does not deserve to ever have access to these children ever again. In regards to her sentence, she was given 4 1 to 15s. And I guess because she's a first-time offender, she could get up to, it's 60 years is the sentence, but she could only serve up to 30. So that's super confusing. Utah is weird when it comes to sentencing. Because they go to the Board of Pardons. The judge doesn't decide how much time you do. The Board of Pardons does. It all just sounds, the whole state just sounds a little weird. I want to mention this too before I go. Kevin wanted to have his wife's back in interrogation. He wanted to protect her. And I think that, he gets a lot of criticism for that as well. You should want to protect your spouse. When I watch his body language in this body cam footage, I don't see a man that is really aware of what's going on. I know that a lot of people are like, you should have asked about your kid. Their body cam footage, at what point was that turned on? Maybe he walked into the police station and said, I'm here to get my kids and I needed to know what the hell is going on. right? And then they're like, let's go into this interrogation room. And then they turned on their body cam. There was probably a little bit of dialogue before we're even seeing it. So we don't know if it took him 14 minutes to ask how the kids are. I also think it's unfair to judge how people respond to extreme, trauma or whatever. If a tragedy happens, a lot of people are just kind of ruthless when discussing like, oh, that's not the right way to respond. And, we're all different. We're all human. There's no right or wrong way to respond to trauma. We all respond differently. So I'm not like beating him up for this, but I don't think that he is blameless. He does try to charge their oldest with robbery because she took items out of the house. That's not a good father. It's also a red flag. Like, yeah, you should want to protect your spouse, right? Sure. Why do you not want to protect your child? So there are definite red flags that a lot of content creators are like, oh hell no, why do you want to protect Ruby? But you want to put your oldest kid in jail. So I don't think that he's a great father. I don't think a great father goes MIA for an entire year just because their ex was like, I'm inviting you to no longer live with us because you watched porn. Bitch, no, let me see my kids. Let me take care of my kids. Like, ugh. So I don't think he's innocent. I don't think he's blameless. I understand why he wasn't charged, but I don't think he's a good person. And I don't think that he should have access to these kids without supervision for a long time. Are they in state custody right now? Hold on. Some of them are adults. As of March 27th of 2024, the younger four, A, J, R, and E, are now in the care of Department of Child and Family Services. So they're in a foster home. The older two are adults. I hope they're in a loving, supporting home that is giving them access to mental health treatment. I haven't looked into, exactly the dynamic of that. I'm assuming that we can't know because it is foster care. Nor should anyone know. It's none of our business what they're doing right now. I think before looking into this case, I really didn't understand why so many people were calling DCFS on me. I had 4 separate investigations. People were saying because of, you guys know the drama, because of text messages leaked that I was using drugs and neglecting my children and drinking in excess and neglecting my children. So I was investigated 4 times. These are 60-day in the state of Illinois where I used to live. These are 60-day long investigations where they investigate everything. They drug test me. They interview my kids. They talk to the school. They talk to doctors. They talk to my doctor because I did sign a release to talk to my therapist. They do a walkthrough of the home. All of that, right? All of that was done 4 times last year. All came back unfounded because I take really good care of my kids. And it has been a wild ride. And I was so angry for random people online calling DCFS on me so many times. But after looking into this case, I'm like, okay, I do think some people were genuinely concerned. The boldness of Ruby, Frankie, and Jody, because they had a fucking podcast, 8 Passengers Turned Into Connections, the boldness of them to openly discuss child abuse and child neglect and starving your children and all of these things is sickening. And it progressively got worse over time. Before Jody was even on the scene, Ruby and Kevin were already practicing, certain levels of child abuse by restricting food and basic necessities like a bed. It's just bizarre. And, my heart goes out to those babies. I hope they're in the best home, living their best life. And I know that they have a very long healing journey. This is lifelong trauma. But yeah, my heart goes out to them. I'm going to end today's video here. Let me know if you guys want me to continue covering Ruby Frankie. I kind of want to move on because it's just so heavy. But those are my thoughts and opinions. I hope she fucking rots. I hope she gets air trays. I hope she gets her fucking ass beat and they have to keep her in protective custody. I don't think she should be living a sinful lifestyle on the yard with commissary, Make her steal water. Fucking sicko. Bye, you guys. It's ours birthday tomorrow. July 10th. Yeah,